Most of you know that my wife's a beautician. And don't laugh. That's not how I found out about him. But Val is Anita Moore's brother. And they were talking one day, and Christy was telling her how we'd struggled to try to find the right people. Because this is a special thing, and I'm just really glad that they talked. And thank you, Anita, for sharing your brother with us. Val was born in Salt Lake City. He graduated from Granite High School in 1966 and then attended trade school to become an electrician. He served an LDS mission to New Zealand in 1967 to 1969. 1 month after returning home from his mission, he was drafted into the Army but decided to transfer to the Marine Corps. He served in Vietnam with the 3rd Battalion, the 7th Marines. He also served in the USS Iwo Jima as a force in readiness just off the coast of North Vietnam. I already told you, don't mess with Jay. He won this physical fitness award out of 700 men. We got a picture of Jay when he sent us some information about him. And there's a picture of like 6 or 7 guys in this photograph. One had a cigarette in his mouth. I guessed that wasn't Jay, since he just barely got off of an LDS mission. So I guessed that wasn't him. And he was the big tough guy right in the middle with the big muscles. He's still got big muscles, so I still don't want to mess with him too bad. But it's easy for me to tease him here because he can't do anything this far away. I'll watch out after. Val enjoys hiking, fishing, camping, and many outdoor recreation activities with his family. He's served in many church callings. He's been in 3 bishoprics and on the High Council. He's a master electrician and owner of Value Electric in St. George. Loves his country and believes this is the greatest nation on earth. He's pleased to have had the honor to serve his country. Please welcome with me Mr. Val Langston.
What an honor and a privilege it is to stand before you this evening, especially in the company of somebody like Jay Hess. I can't even imagine what he went through in those times. I look at this old brother here with his uniform on, darn it brings tears to my eyes. And the rest of you who've served our country so faithfully, I cannot help but think of how thankful and appreciative we are as members of this beautiful America for the sacrifices that you have made in behalf of our country. When I first got to Vietnam, I went to the barber shop, and there was a Marine there that had been there nearly 13 months. And as he sat down on the barbershop chair, there was a Vietnamese man who was going to cut his hair. He promptly loaded his .45, cocked it, and sat there on the chair. And he says, if you make one mistake or one quick move with that straight edge, you're going to get it. And so I approached this assignment much like that barber did, with fear and trembling. The birth of this nation started with the courage of 56 men who risked their fame, their fortune, and their very lives by signing the Declaration of Independence. They had committed treason against England, which was punishable by death. And treason, when you were caught with treason and you were punished, you were hung until you were unconscious. You were cut loose, revived, you were cut open while still alive, your entrails were pulled out and thrown into a fire, your head was chopped off. And that's what these men faced if they were caught. Benjamin Franklin said, we must all hang together, or most assuredly, we shall hang separately. Stephen Hopkins, who suffered from palsy, said, my hand trembles, but my spirit, my heart does not. America faced this war for independence with a tiny, untrained, ill-supplied, ragtag army. As I've studied the history of this nation, I'm looking at this and I'm going, are you kidding me? This nation is going to go up against the greatest superpower in the world, with a ragtag, ill-trained, ill-supplied army is almost inconceivable. But Britain, the superpower, had fought on 5 different continents and defeated every power that stood before it. To crush the uprising, British landed with 130 warships and 32,000 highly trained, well-equipped soldiers. The British expected a quick and easy victory, and I can certainly understand why. The seemingly impossible task of fighting for independence rested upon the shoulders of a farmer from Virginia, George Washington. George Washington was no stranger to warfare. 20 years earlier, while he was fighting in the the French Indian War, in an ambush, George Washington had 2 horses shot out from underneath him. He was the only officer not wounded or killed out of 86 officers. Remember, in those days, the officers were on the horses, and they were the targets. Hit the officers. But out of 86 officers that went down, George Washington was the only one that was not shot, although he had counted 4 bullet holes in his coat. 15 years later, an Indian chief traveled many miles to see George Washington. And he told George Washington, he says, "I personally shot at you 17 times. And he says, I came here to pay homage to the one who is in the care of the Great Spirit, one who can never die in battle." The Revolutionary War did not go well with Washington's army. In the first 7 months, they lost battle after battle. They were pushed back out of 3 states, with 90% of Washington's army too sick to fight, deserted, or dead. There again, I look at this in an absolute amazement of what they went through. The cause looked bleak, and some really had given way to panic. During these trying times, Thomas Paine wrote, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of his country." And then he added this, "But he that stands yet now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman." In 8 hard-fought years, with much suffering, this nation, with the help of brave men and women, gained our freedom for independence. Of the sacrifices and suffering made by those who fought for our independence, Abigail Adams, who was, of course, John Adams' wife, the 2nd President of the United States, she said this, "Posterity who are to reap the blessings will scarcely be able to conceive the hardships suffered by their ancestors." How did a small ragtag army comprised of merchants and farmers, ill-equipped, underfunded, some without even shoes, fight and win a war with a superpower like Great Britain? I think the key to that is in George Washington's first inaugural address, when he proclaimed this. He said, "No people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men more than the people of the United States. Every step by which they have advanced to the character of independent nation seems to have been distinguished by some token of providential agency." I think George Washington knew that as he fought that Revolutionary War, that he certainly was not alone.